Welcome to VPG's Virtual Water Cooler Chat Podcast, a platform that features professionals across a variety of industries and promotes growth mindset principles with a central pillar of championing the achievements of women. Our conversations explore a wide spectrum of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives, creating a vibrant mosaic that enriches our collective understanding and strengthens our commitment to growth and empowerment. Today, we're speaking with Janet Bruins about her personal and professional journey from engineering to corporate finance and everything in between, including how her book, Expecting It All, came to be. With over 15 years of experience as a professional engineer, Janet is a strong advocate for STEM education and global experience opportunities for young professionals, connecting students with underserved communities in Honduras, India, and the Philippines to address local climate change challenges. The birth of her daughter sparked a transformative shift in Janet's life, and cultivating personal growth and ambition among women has become her primary mission. Her book, Expecting It All, guides mothers through the transformative journey from woman to parent, encouraging them to dream beyond self-sacrifice. Let's get started.
Hello, Janet Bruins. So happy to have you here. And welcome to Virtual Water Cooler Chat Season 3. And I'm honored to have you as a guest. So
Thank you so much.
Started.
Thank you for having me on. I am so thrilled.
So much to talk about today. I've gotten to know you through Iolani Bullock, through a couple of the DEIA workshop that we had for VPG. And I found you to be a very kind-hearted person. And we also went to a retreat together that you hosted.
Yes.
I don't generally do stuff like that. I'm just so you know, only for special people. So we're going to get started. Can you share your story? Who is Janet Bruins for someone who has never met you?
I grew up in Taiwan and I moved back and forth between Taiwan and US all growing up. And then afterwards, really settled down in high school, the last 2 years of high school. And my background education is in engineering because my mom forced me. She thought that as a first generation immigrant, engineering is a good career to be settled into. So she asked me to attend University of Michigan School of Engineering, and I fought her, but she won because she hit my acceptance letter from NYU, so that I thought I had no choice but to attend Michigan. And that's how I became an engineer. And working in engineering after 15 years, I thought that's enough of filial duty to my parents, and I'm established a bit. And then I decided to go and get my MBA because that is where I have more of an interest in. And now I work in corporate finance happily out of engineering. So in a nutshell, that's kind of me career-wise. I'm also a mother, husband. I have a daughter, and I wrote a book.
So, a couple of questions. What were you going to study at NYU if your mother did not hit your acceptance letter?
Don't care. It would have been in New York and I would have had fun. But aside from NYU, what I really wanted to study when I was in high school was hotel management. So I thought the idea of, making people happy on their holiday is well spent as a career. That would have been a great career. But then September 11th hit. And so I was glad that I wasn't in that career because then some of the travels kind of went away.
Let's see. My cousin's daughter actually went to NYU right at the beginning of COVID.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They were calling me. It was like they did not look at the time differences and they were supposed to put a deposit in for the dorm and it was late and they asked me if I could put $9,000 for them. And I was like,
nothing is cheap in New York.
That is a huge ask. I happen to actually have it, but please do not ever ask me something like this again.
So you supported somebody
in such short notice.
Yes,
they pay me back. It's just the time difference is crazy between Hong Kong and here, and I think that she might have missed the fine print, to say it lightly. So then, I was like, okay, fine, we will do that. So that was when you said NYU. I have people that I'm friends that actually study at NYU, but that was one that came to mind.
Well, my sister actually went to NYU, so talk about slightly unfair treatment.
I mean, do you resent?
No, absolutely not. We had a fantastic time. I went to visit her all the time, and it was just, we had a place to stay. And truthfully, living in New York would have been tough. It's a tough city.
It's way too much.
Yeah.
I have family in New York, but I would not live in New York.
I agree.
The hustling, bustling is not me. I am a suburban person.
No,
Like
same.
very, very much so. So Hong Kong would not have been for me either because it's too much. You are a woman in STEM and your career journey kind of started from electrical engineering, computer science, corporate finance. And how did that get into women's empowerment and sort of mentoring international like engineering students?
Right.
You have like Honduras, India, Philippines. Tell us how that actually all worked.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have the time to do all of that before we get into the book.
Awesome. Okay. A lot of questions in that one thing. I am very fortunate that my company is very supportive of these international development volunteering through Engineers Without Borders. So before having a child, becoming a mother, I traveled myself and we just went to all of these places and then try to do good, which is far more difficult than I had imagined in the beginning. And after having Rosie, I decided that I'm not going to travel, but I am going to volunteer as a mentor to engineering students. And that's when I really got a lot of female students. I think it's in all areas that when you look at volunteers, there's a lot of women, more so than men. Men also volunteer, of course, but it feels like at least the majority of the people that I work with in the volunteering capacity are women. So I get to really try to establish a connection with them outside of just volunteering activity and try to give as much as I can in terms of knowledge sharing, promotion, trying to just help them reach their dreams because I feel like we deserve it. We deserve all the support, all the any sort of advantage that we can get in our ways to achieve what we want to do.
Yeah, it's really hard to find, good mentors. And I like the fact that it's called Engineering Without Borders. It's like Doctors Without Borders. It's really
Yep.
cool.
Great branding. Yeah.
Yeah, great branding there. I'm going to kind of dive right in about your book, Expecting It All, More Time, Money, Energy, and Space for Mothers. That's a mouthful. How did you come up with the name of your book?
Actually, I was talking to another mother friend. We went to MBA and graduated together. And she's a mom now, and she's also a career woman, very fast climber. She's doing so well. And we were just talking about balancing everything. And that's what she said, more time, money, energy, and space. And I thought, wow, that's about cover it. You can't have anything less. You really need all of that resources to support you. And it kind of feels like you never have enough of that when you're caring for yourself and your family.
Now, we're both Asian Americans. I'm Chinese American from Hong Kong and Taiwanese American. And writing a book that is this truthful, does it scare you that your mother actually read it?
Yeah, as I was writing, there's a lot of bits where I was just like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
You get phone calls.
Like note to self, probably take this off in the final draft. But as I kept writing, it just turns into like, okay, well, it's all going to come out. Otherwise, it's not going to be meaningful, impactful, truthful. And so I called my mom and said, hey, so this is what I'm doing. And she was like, why? Why would you ever do that? And it took several phone calls to convince her. And she thought, okay, she probably doesn't know that I'm doing podcasts and start talking about her and how she did, all those things for my career, in which case that would have been another conversation. But yeah.
Well, but the only thing is that sometimes, we kind of raised in different culture than our parents. And I think if they were given the opportunity, like your parents are highly educated. My parents were not. Like my parents did not go through like higher education. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times they did not dictate what I do. They kind of hear what other people say. That might not be a good thing for you, but there's no basis for them to tell me no. Other than that, I don't think you should do that. I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. So I was a poli-sci and East Asian languages and cultures major, partly something that is popular among Asian American women to take. Accounting, pharmacy, and, engineering. I'm not a woman in STEM because I do not like math. So that's something. But I just thought that as I skimmed through the book enough to come up with questions, I have a couple of people on my team that have daughters, and also Tori just recently become a mother. daughter.
Oh,
She just gave
congratulations.
birth to Luke, who is so adorable. I think this would be a good book for her. And also my other friend, who her daughter just gave birth. I think it's a daughter. And I can't keep up. Everybody's having baby. So I'm like, okay, another book. So I think that I've been recommending the book to new mothers. Just thought that you should know.
Thank you.
Now, you talk about at the beginning, you kind of like talk about how it was very difficult for you to sort of like accept your daughter in the sense with postpartum depression, which a lot of people do not really talk about because professionals, especially in, I think, some of the high tech industry, people like have an image to maintain. So they kind of sweep the vulnerability under the rug. So I thought it was refreshingly truthful. Does it scare you to be that truthful?
Yeah, so I guess part of what you're maybe referring to is the part when, right after giving birth, where I really spend my 8-hour days seemingly just staring at my phone of pictures of my daughter and then, walking around the office to get some steps in. I feel like, no, that is what I did. A lot of the times I did do work to make sure that things were moving along. But that kind of goes into another part of what now I believe is that we don't necessarily need the 40 hours dedication to our jobs in order to make a really good, solid impact. That really now life and work is so fluid that it kind of crosses over in different areas. And I am especially fortunate to be in a company where I feel like I can be there for a very long time, for hopefully until I retire, if not even longer. And in which case, I feel that in your life, you just have that ebb and flow of energy to your work. And any good employer should see that there are times of hardship and be able to be accepting of that, to reap the reward of loyalty that comes afterwards. Because anybody who gives me grace during that time, and I talk about my managers and of course my team who have been extremely supportive, those are the people that I would be grateful for years and years. So it's more of a community feeling when you know that sometimes you just can't give. You can't give your 100%. And having the other people in your life to say, and that's okay, is really very fortunate for that I'm able to do that and to be truthful. And hopefully that women can know that there's seasons to your life. There's seasons of family and there's seasons of career. And certain times it may not just be the season for you to gun for the career or even be able to meet your own expectations. And that is okay.
Well, not to unpack there. You talk a lot about growth mindset in your book.
Mm-hmm.
How has becoming a mother transformed your perspective in professional ambition and personal growth?
In terms of professional ambition, I do admit that has gotten tampered down a great deal.
Not the Asian tiger mom, eh?
Yeah, at first, now I can say it because it's no longer my goal. Before I was aiming for the C-suite, just saying yes, I'm just going to keep, taking steps until I get there. And now I'm not driven that way, not because I feel like, oh, now I have a family and I cannot make it, but more of now that Rosie's slightly bigger, I feel like the true idea of I have everything. I have a great family. I have a career where I can still excel at it, but not at the crazy pace. And that leaves me a lot more space to do what I would like to do outside, such as writing and working with other writers and volunteering. So that's part of it that made me realize it. And having that family piece really completes the puzzle in a way that I stopped wondering about what would it be like. That was the missing part before having a child, that what if my family life is not perfect, in which case I should really try my best in the area that I have control in. That is one thing in terms of career. And personal growth, and this is what I write in my book, is that as a mother, you automatically see the long game in the way that you have your child, you may be potty training your child, and you can still dream that your child is going to be the first woman president, the first non-Black minority president, or, be an astronaut or anything of that sort, even though it's clearly this child cannot, wipe his own or her own bottom right now. And that makes, if you use that and just change it to yourself and give yourself that same type of dream, then you can see yourself as well having years to come to be able to do what you want, what you would like to do. And that is the growth mindset that I talked about in my book.
Would you consider the advice for this book is only geared toward corporate and like working mothers, or does it have wider applicability?
So when I wrote the book, and I had tons of help from editors, some of the editors came back and say, this doesn't apply to me, that doesn't apply to me. For example, I had a good chunk of chapters on how to time your career, corporate career, in order to have that best timing so you have the best chance. And I agree that from my perspective, working in corporate all my life, that it is hard for me to say this is how you would do it if you were a freelancer or if you are, a homemaker. But I try to expand it to a way that I feel like it could apply certain areas at the very least. And I try to do my research where other books that I have picked up the knowledge from, they have included more women who are not in their corporate, in a corporate setting.
The book is so detailed that it does look like that it's coming from an engineering, perspective. It's meticulous, so that's what I mean.
Thank you.
The other part of the book that I really like is because we have a mutual connection, Alyssa Gangaran, who illustrated your book. And
yes!
So what made you decided to add illustration to an otherwise text-only book?
It's really to try to make the best book possible. I had a vision for what my book would like to be, and then looking at other, parenting books, or not parenting books, but some of the books that I've gone through, some of the ones that I love are the ones that has illustrations in there. So I'm so happy that you introduced me to her and she was able to put in all of those beautiful graphics. But yeah, and the other thing is that sometimes reading is just kind of boring, if it's just full of text. So, dropping a little bit of illustrations, I thought it may be a fun way to kind of break the tedium a little bit.
That's why I really I have done 2 books working on the third one, and Alyssa is illustrating for the third one. And illustration is not inexpensive. You already know that. And I thought that it was really interesting because my cousin actually introduced Alyssa to me. She studied at University at Albany, and she said, oh, there's this one really talented illustrator. Because I know illustrators. My previous illustrator, I'm actually going to have a call with her tomorrow. She's going to do some other work for me, but she's working at her grown-up job now. So 2 of my OG interns, they both got jobs now. So one of them just got the offer letter today. And the first thing she did, she texted me, was like, I got my offer letter. And she also had her interview. And when she talked about it, she was like, I think it went well, but I'm not going to keep my hopes high. And I said that you need to stop talking like that because that's manifestation. You just don't speak that out because the universe will actually hear this, right?
I believe in that too.
So
Absolutely.
I think manifestation is really important. I mean, I said, don't even think about this and we'll just keep thinking good thoughts. So when I was working on something this morning, I got a text and said, I got an offer letter. I said, see what I told you. Now I have to find replacement. But you are not replaceable. So what am I going to do? So I think that was one of the things that you do, like the international mentoring. I do a lot of the Gen Z mentoring. In the beginning, drove me completely insane. But now it's really kind of fun.
It is fulfilling.
It is fulfilling because I'm not sure that I actually find a lot of fulfillment by filing. If I meet the deadline, great. It is bread and butter. But I also think that you have your engineering, finance community. I have my legal community. And it was pretty amazing to be able to be my own boss and started working with people and being able to be in a position to make an impact. So with that,
that is one of the so amazing things about you is that you went from the 9 to 5 structure, working for a company and being able to jump off out. And when you have that decision to do anything that you want with your extra capacity, that you're really giving to the people that, within your team, you're guiding them, and also all the support. All I hear is support that you give for the various authors. And I remember people saying like, you're the genuine deal. You're the real thing.
Well, let's make no mistake. It was never a 9 to 5 job.
Oh.
I was in litigation. It's more like close to 24/7 sometimes, but I do have my time to take time off. Now, besides writing a book, you also have a publishing company.
Yes.
Do share.
I'm so glad you mentioned it. Throughout writing my book, I realized that there's so much behind just the words that after you have the manuscript, there is so much work on the publisher side. As anybody who has aspired to be a writer or as an author, you know that submitting your manuscript, which you poured your heart out to the publisher, is such a thing where that I feel like there should be more care to that, especially the relationship between the publisher and the author, especially when it comes to selecting manuscripts. Because of that, because of writing the book, and because of my love for picture books, I decided to start a publishing company for picture books, children's picture books, where I can work with my favorite minority authors and really let them just expand their creativity, really be supportive and say, okay, if this is what you need, then sure, we can do that with the book. And that is because as I'm collecting these books, I'm chasing down the authors, trying to get them to sign my book and personalize it. And what I hear back sometimes from the minority authors is that they hear from their publishers to say, we don't like this manuscript because it's not award-winning, or can you come up with something else? That they're really siloed, being placed into a certain role to write certain stories. I feel like that is a waste of creativity and talent. Also, they talk about not having enough budget for marketing from their publishers. And all of these led me to think that I can do better. Not with a lot of books because it costs money. Publishing is an expensive hobby at this point, but I can do some. And for those few books that I can help produce, I think it'll make kids happy and make adults happy reading them. So that is my hope. And the company is called Picnic Heist. The thought behind it is that it's a picnic out there and we're here to take those joys for ourselves unapologetically. That's the meaning behind the publishing firm.
So it looks like that we both have expensive hobbies. I have podcasting and you have publishing.
Yeah.
I sat with one of my mentors one day for lunch, and he usually does this with me, and he was like, so how's the business going? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And, about the podcasting is very impressive, but many people come back and say, that it's hard to turn podcasting into money and monetize it, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't need money for that. But I was like, I just like talking to people. And I just like offering that platform. When you were talking about, the minority authors getting advice, it's totally about not getting the necessary ROI for the publisher. Once you publish the book, the publisher does not go out and promote it for you. You, as an author, has to do it yourself. So I'm learning this the hard way. I had to come up with creative stuff. So I have coffee collab and boba collab, because prior to that, I didn't even want to really promote my book. I have actually full-time work. So I write for hobby. But then at some point, it's like, you're right. It's very expensive to do that.
It's also difficult. I feel like I would love to talk about all the people who are, that I'm publishing for, the authors and illustrators. I can talk about them all day long, everywhere. But I put off the work on promoting my book. I drag my feet to it because sometimes it feels a little but I try my best.
Yeah, I think that is something that very difficult, especially for Asian American women. I feel, at least for me, I cannot speak for you. I have a hard time going out and talk about myself. These days, you just have to. Even when Jessica Wynn, who is like one of the Femtech Titan that I had like podcasts with, she recommended the book Reid Hoffman, The Startup of You. Really great book. And basically talk about like the startup challenges. And when I told her, it's like, well, as a businesswoman, I have to go out and sort of promote myself and be visible. She was like, even if you're not a businesswoman, you still have to go out and promote yourself. She also came from humble beginning. Amazing woman. She's just like so funny. I was like, oh my God, I just really, really, it just really laughed so hard. And she goes like, were you laughing at me? No, I'm not laughing at you. I just find it refreshing for people to be like, just not so afraid of the judgment out there and just try to be themselves. And I don't think that is orchestrated, but if it is, she did a good job. So thank you for sharing about Picnic Heist. Let's go back to the book a little bit.
Okay.
Do you think that your advice to aim higher would have resonated with your postpartum depression self? Why or why not?
When I was in depression, there was nothing. The thought was just that my life was over. It's all about my daughter. There was no aiming high. That's pure depression talking. And part of me feel like sometimes we sink into, well, at least I sink into depression whenever I feel I try a little bit too hard to aim at something. And then my body's telling me to shut down and just be like, forget about that. Seek professional help. So for all women who feel like they have that depression feeling, it is very difficult. But I think the part that I learned is that with proper treatment, medication, therapy, and long walks, it does pass. And the really important thing is that not to give up on yourself, not to bury that idea and that dream. And that when you jump out, to really just say, okay, I'm good now. And then you can aim high at any stage of your life. It doesn't have to be when you are in your teens and got all of that crazy energy, or, in your early 20s and in your 30s or 40s. And then you can just continue to do that throughout your life. We have so much resources now and really a very long, productive life for all of us, that I feel like aiming high can be something that if you can't do that right now, at the very least, reserve that thought and know that should be something that you go for after you come out of a slump.
I see. Now, looking at your background there, just very tidy with all the everything. There's perfect alignment, in terms of like putting the picture frame there. So in the subheading, a tidy space is a losing battle. You use the phrase, train your mind. When discussing the process of changing your perspective of a tidy home, how long did it take for you to train your mind? Because I do need to train my mind.
It is true. Like before, life was so nice and neat. I remember my first apartment where it's just, you got your minimalist style going on. And then afterwards I was into antique furniture and that I decorated everything just so. And then now you have a child, and then you have a husband who's very involved in taking care of your child. And that also means that he is going to pull out all the toys. And when you come back home, it's just going to be scattered around. And you're just like, there's so much dishes and there's so much of this. And it's hard, that particular point, especially since I feel like women nowadays also have children later. So we have more time to really enjoy that control over everything. It is incredibly hard. So when I say kind of the switch your mind, in that, I hope I explained it well in the book. It's the paradigm shift.
I thought there would be a sequel.
No, not for a little while. Man, this writing journey has been maybe after a year or so where, I come down from the writing. But the idea of paradigm shift, which is you have certain beliefs, and if you can change your belief instantly in the way that I think is really magical, and it can happen very, very rarely. I guess what I mean by that is that if you spend time and sit and consider and think about the life that you have and how this chaos is really a proof of life, of the overflowingness of all of your joy and happiness and worldly possessions. And if you can make that leap, that switch, that is the magical part. And that leap, it takes time. It takes a lot of effort. But if you can do it, then you will have a little bit more mental space for yourself, because otherwise it is just torturous emotionally to kind of like squeeze all of that energy into doing so much housework. So hopefully that comes across in the book.
Well, as we are closing off to this wonderful conversation, do you have any additional advice that you would like to offer first-time mothers?
For most of us, we know that we don't get to choose the child we're going to give birth to. What I found out is that sometimes you have not as much control as you would like as the mother you become or the parent your partner has become. And it's an adjustment period, and it is tough living through that 24 hours, having no place to escape. And that is the part that I was experiencing. So having enough of that support system to be able to open yourself up and then to really reach out to say that you need help is really an incredible gift that you can give to yourself. And the other thing is that if you have a partner, train your partner early. In the very beginning, I'm serious. In the very beginning, you are a novice at caring for babies. Your partner is a novice at caring for babies. Unless you let go, like just put that maternal instinct aside and just be like, diaper changing is yours. Feeding and, non-breastfeeding is yours. And cleaning up is yours. And the kitchen is all yours. Unless you can give that all away, you're never going to have a partner who can be your double and take that burden. So just really enable the people that you're with and say, you got this. You got this. I'm just as scared as you are. And yes, you don't have the reproductive parts maybe, or maybe they do, but you got this. And I'm walking away and taking my nap and going to, indulge for those few minutes that I can get away. And that's the important parts for new mothers. That scary, but you got this. It's going to get way better. Empower your partners.
Well, congratulations again on finishing this labor of love. When is the launch going to be?
So originally I thought the launch was going to be in December. So right now we're recording in 2024, November. I thought the launch was going to be in December. And my publishers came back. No, they didn't even tell me. I found out through my marketer that no, the book is going to be published in March 2025. If you're listening right now and it is past December, but before March, then you can order my book directly on my website, janetbruins.com, and I will personally put that in the mail. I'll gift wrap it, put it in the mail, sign it, and you will have a copy of it. Otherwise, if it's past March, you can still order on my website, but you can also find it on Amazon or in the bookstore, hopefully.
Yay! Well, Thank you so much, Janet, for such a wonderful and entertaining talk and sharing your labor of love.
Thank you for
Thank you so much.
this opportunity.